Thank you, and we will now continue talking about this same subject. Our next speaker will be talking about the challenge for organizations of people of the digital transformation that we're going through. Let's give the floor to Tomas Iriondo, who is the director of Gaia. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Well, in the next few minutes, I will be speaking about the 4.0 concept that I would say that in the last months is overwhelming us because everyone talks about the same thing and the effect that this will be having on the transformation of our organizations and are one of the main assets of our organization and that is its people. So from the perspective of the sector of electronic computer and telecommunications sector, what are the dynamic that we are working on nowadays? First of all, I would like to share four simple ideas. First of all, the importance that has been mentioned before of how these technologies have a very important role in everything having to do with the digital transformation. They are key agents, and I would say that they are allies to reinforce the personal development of people.
Y las tenemos que ver como herramientas.
And we have to see them as tools, tools that facilitate and integrate the professional and personal capacity in the work sphere or in the leisure sphere. The second idea is that we are now living in this reality. This is not something that will be happening in the future. Many of the examples given, many of the experiences we're going through are real nowadays. This means that we are able to be more or less competitive, and our organizations are able to communicate better in the global world where there's more aggressiveness and more participation of new stakeholders that surprise us and that we collaborate with. Therefore, we are in a reality that represents opportunities. The third key idea is that the challenge is to try and find that specialization and the adequate dimension to be able to complete globally, and therefore the deployment of new skills in our own business, industrial, economic. It is necessary to be aware that in the next years we're going to have new supply chains, new economic activities, and these new economic activities are going to be already known skills with the addition of other disciplines and skills that might now seem to be far away from us. So we therefore need to visualize the opportunity provided by these new value chains. And the fourth and last idea in my introduction is that obviously these opportunities are opportunities for the economy, but mainly for professionals and talent. We need to change and revolutionize our way of working. And that is a concept that I will be speaking about throughout my talk. And we need to mainly develop skills to be able to be efficient in this 4.0 environment that will be surrounding us, or better said, absorbing us in a continuous manner in all the spheres of the professional activity. So the question is, why are we talking about 4.0 now? Why are we talking about a digital transformation? And why are we talking about the fourth industrial revolution? What has happened? because this is something that is highlighted nowadays, but not 4 years ago. 4 years ago, no one knew what Industry 4.0 was. No one had coined this term. Maybe some people talked about digital transformation, which could be a more open concept. The way in which we interpret this moment in time is that this is a point in time where two things coexist: a mature technology, and saying this from the sector that I represent, believe me when I say that the most part of the technology that is going to be applied in future years already exists and has been tested in labs through prototypes and demos. So what we need to do now is to be skillful enough to be able to give it an added value in the working and leisure spheres that are being created nowadays. So we have an already tested technology that is very broad, that allows us to build new proposals. And on the other hand, and the fact that makes this quite unique right now, is that the needs are changing. Customers are more and more demanding. They want customized solutions. They don't want global solutions. There's a greater need of assistance for a product, more need of a response and a reaction when there's a demand from the market. There is a demand of trust, and that means that the application of all these mature technologies allows us to get to this key moment. We've personally reflected on why we believe that developed countries like Germany, the US, or Japan are obsessed with Industry 4.0. I'm sure that some of you have reflected on this. Why are all these people really wanted to work on this reality? I don't know if this is the true answers, but at least one of the answers that we share is that it is a reaction to the 2 decades of bringing businesses or manufacturing plants to other regions in the world, that due to low costs or lower costs, they have been taken to regions where the only difference or the main difference was the cost of workers. This means that we want an Industry 4.0. That means that the wage cost of people has less effect on the final value of the product. This means that this revolution should be an objective for the developed regions that we live in. For example, this convergence of mature technology on the one hand and a demand of the markets that are more and more demanding bring us to this reality of the Industry 4.0. This is the evolution that we can all recognize, at least those of us that are as old as me. Before we had a mechanical element. This evolves towards a megatronic element. Then we see that this weight becomes a cyber physical system because it's connected to my smartphone, and it talks about my evolution regarding my weight. It gives me guidelines and even shows graphs of what the trends are, positive or negative, almost always negative. So there's someone that says, well, I can provide a service from all of this. Someone can gather all this information and transform it into an added value for you through a personal trainer or a nutritionist, someone that with this information and with a mechanical product that is connected provides proposals that allow you to live in a healthier manner and to have healthier habits. This is the revolution in which we find ourselves. It's the revolution that tries to provide help with the products and their services provided, that are services that are customized for each individual. And with the information generated, it provides guidelines regarding habits, attitudes, to be able to know if my habits are healthier in the future than in the past. And this is the real driving force of this concept of a 4.0 revolution. This means that we're going to have enormous quantities of data, and we will see what is the natural trend of what is happening in our environment. And by bringing together the technologies, new attitudes, and new skills, we're able to develop also our economic environment. There are many realities that combine technology, data, information, models, statistics, security, cybersecurity, that will allow us to live in our comfortable manner and to develop. Having said this, what does this mean? It means that we face new opportunities, more specifically, new opportunities for individuals. This wouldn't make sense if it wouldn't have individuals as the core element of organizations and communities. We need to visualize how we can position ourselves before these new opportunities and challenges to be able to react and contribute in a collaborative manner. What are we observing? Observing that we are a small country, the Basque country, but we need to reinforce collaboration to be able to face the challenges of the future. So the digital transformation will limit the supply of what the industry is going to provide. So the industry can become bigger, or it can go through a radical revolution. It could become bigger by incorporating technologies in the processes and developing smart products. And also, I can start building different layers of services for that product to be closer to its end use.
Las innovaciones.
What's more, there are also radical innovations. I'm going to find that there are people who think are going to invent new ways of satisfying markets. That means that things used to be done in a certain way so far, but new ways are going to be devised of doing that to generate economic opportunity. For example, music promotion through internet. That's an example of that. A few years ago, that was unthinkable. We'd have thought that the record industry had control of product distribution, but somebody now, with a mature technology, because internet now dates from 1993, somebody has realized that you can develop a different way of covering market needs and expectations. So in this radical incremental vision, we're going to have to be there as organizations and as companies or as schools. Of course, this digital economy is going to provide youngsters with something new. And I'm going to say something that I feel is important to you. Despite the fact that we are obsessed with different technologies and knowledge areas that are going to emerge in the 4.0 environment, the most important, and in fact, technologies are going to be necessary, but they're going to be insufficient. What's most important, and the most important thing that we're going to see in this digital transformation, is a change in people's attitude. We're going to have to visualize and act in a completely different way to what we've done in the past. And I think this is going to require from you who are in charge of VET schools, this facilitating of new skills, new knowledge, and new talent to youngsters that aren't necessarily going to be technical skills, but skills to ability to interpret, to innovate, to work as a team. And although these skills have been worked on in the past, they need to be stepped up because the new ecosystem that this digital environment is going to provide us with is going to require that we step them up in the future. So the responsibility that we have regarding the 4.0 environment is going to be the responsibility of professionals and people. And this isn't something that we can do on our own. We need collaboration. And I think this conference is a good idea of collaboration, because here what you're doing is you're sharing, you're socializing the experiences of different vocational training centers in different places and different points around the world. And you've all got challenges that are similar, if not the same, which you probably can't face on your own, and that you're going to need to collaborate on if you're going to deal with together. And it's going to be thanks to this collaboration that your students and your professional structures will develop what's called the collaboration muscle, so that they can react better and more swiftly and in a more satisfactory manner when facing these changes that we're going to see in our surroundings. Always in the form of alliances, alliances structured between each of and every one of us as educational practitioners, between our vocational training school and companies and research centers, etc., and also between ourselves and society, sharing this new way of seeing this digitally transformed surroundings. So what are the challenges that are out there that we need to be clear on when we talk about collaboration? And I'm going to differentiate it using two terms. The first is to smartize. We need to make sure that our students are accompanying business to provide them with new things, so that they can show businesses that our processes, thanks to the inclusion of new technology, can be better managed, more efficient, and can allow a more thorough inspection and control patterns, more efficient reaction times, and generate transparency and confidence in the market. So we're going to have to carry on investing, because this is by no means new, in improving processes and digitization of processes. The second challenge within this idea of smartization is making services smart. We need to include sensorial connectivity so that the services that we offer, or rather our products that we offer, are increasingly functional. They respond better to the surroundings where they operate, and they respond that easily that respond to the environment easily. That is, they're smart enough not to have to go through a whole series of difficult operations, but they're smart enough to be able to adapt to the environments and operate in the best conditions so that they can carry out that activity. And as a result of digitized processes and as a result of smart products, we're also going to have to build something which is new, or which is newer, which is the new digital economy. The digital economy that talks about service creation that are product linked, so as to be able to bring product market nearer to us. Clear examples of this. There's a company called Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce works in the aeronautics industry, and for years now, it no longer has been selling engines to airlines. What it does is it rents engines, and they have to pay for flying hours. They pay for the use that they make of engines. To make this transformation, that is from a company that sells engines to a service company for Rolls-Royce, where actually the asset, the engine, is still something that belongs to Rolls-Royce, even though it's in a Boeing or an Airbus aircraft. What they've had to do is use digital processes. They've had to give their engines new functions and put sensors on them, because if they want a sustainable model, Rolls-Royce is interested in having engine operating parameters during flight in such a way that they can be remotely monitored. So, in fact, the engine is like a laboratory of sensors and communications that detect early on any anomaly in the engine's operation. So, when the plane lands after a certain number of flight hours, it's got a diagnosis of what the engine needs and can therefore provide working guidelines to the person that needs to repair it. So this just gives us information to intelligent systems and means that the service model or the use model is actually changing. This is a revolution that we're all going to be involved in, and to get alongside our machine tool friends. We were talking recently about how in the future we probably won't be selling machining centers, but rather what we'll be offering the market is a use hours on a machine center to our customers. So we'll be in the same situation that Rolls-Royce is in. I've got a friend, Janice Rocker, an anthropologist, who says that all products that go through some kind of a technological pressure actually end up being a service. They seem to be assets, things, but they're actually services. And what that person is saying is that this transformation in our environment is going to generate what we can call the new digital economy. That is new layers of activity, new service models. That is what really going to generate a revolution, bring about a revolution in our environments. So what do we have to do? We have to align our professionals, our practitioners, with these opportunities. It's true that in the future we're not going to have to know so much about technology per se, because we're going to be taught skills through smart glasses and get the necessary information about the piece of equipment that we have in front of us, about how it needs to be maintained, about its safety protocol, etc. We're not going to have to memorize so much. We're not going to have to rote learn so much. But we are going to have to do is to interpret things better. We're going to have to coexist in this ecosystem so that our professional work is strengthened, and we're going to feel more at home, more comfortable in this kind of a reality. So, I'm now going to put the Basque Country in its context. The Basque Country has a strategy for all of this. I'm not going to bore you with it, but what the Basque Country says is that advanced manufacturing is going to be one of its main growth pillars in coming years. We are proud that we manufacture, and what we want to do is to increase our commitment, our engagement with manufacturing. This hasn't just been said by the Basque Country, it's something that the US has decided upon, Japan and Germany, of course. So we're not looking too far away, too far afield. We're to benchmarking economies that are near us. There's also the question of energy, biosciences, health sciences, and intelligent territories as a concept. So what's happened here? Well, we've had to develop a whole series of strategies of alliances and collaborations between a whole host of organizations, sectors, driving companies, clusters, research centers, universities, to be able to make this value proposition. What does that mean? Although we're a benchmark territory, we've realized that actually we're not able to broach the new 4.0 environment in the time and at the speed that we wanted to. So I think this is an example to encourage VET centers to set up dynamic collaboration structures outside this conference. I'm sure you probably already have them, to see where, to pinpoint where the opportunities and the challenges are, so that you can get those students that you have, so that you can get them and provide them with the best methodologies and tools, so that these students can become true professionals, so that we can cover the expectations and the needs of our industrial surroundings. Here you can see a graph that actually shows where these people are going to be working. Where are there places where there are going to be jobs available? If we are going to be working in productive activities, we're going to have jobs available in pre-production, for example, in eco-design, in collaborative design. All of these are processes that are necessary to guarantee that the new value propositions in the Industry 4.0 market actually meet a series of regulations that are still being written, for example, life cycle. So we going to need to assist in logistics and supplies, in raw materials, in semi-manufactured components. And we're also going to have to concentrate on post-production. That means that once the product leaves our factories, we're going to be in charge of checking how that product is used. And it's important because that cycle will feed back to us and will guarantee the development of future environments. Graphically, what we usually say is that if you want to be an Industry 4.0, there are three challenges out there. Firstly, you need to train, you need to incorporate processes and technology that help us systematize and digitalize our surroundings. Secondly, to market. We need to build solutions that give greater added value for the market, a global demanding market that we've mentioned before. And thirdly, and perhaps most important, is to become aware of this. What I mean is that we need to act as Industry 4.0. We need to act as Environment 4.0. That means that we need to act as a network, we need to collaborate, we need to be transparent. Our processes need to be transparent. We need to share knowledge, transfer technology in a dynamic and participatory fashion. So our pledge to incorporate technology, to build ideas that help and accompany us in the development of new processes and products, this cultural change that we all need to take on board. This is what we feel are the two challenges of this digital transformation that we're going through. And once again, I'd like to reiterate the main players here are people, not technology. We can also build ourselves a route map. It's important that we have a working plan. It's important for us to, as vocational training centers, what we want to achieve in our surroundings, because our surroundings condition what we do. We might be closer to a logistics platform or the healthcare industry. We need to think what skills, what professional profiles need to respond to the market needs. We could even look at it from a more complete cycle, for example, processes, raw materials, energy management, environmental issues, new product development models. Of course, we need to consider technologies. We don't need to become obsessed with them, but we need to apply them intelligently, smartly. There are lots of them, so we're going to have to seek some kind of complementarity between our knowledge to be able to guarantee that we are making new value change. We need this system to be on a continually feedback loop. This idea of the circular economy is going to be a main asset that is going to allow us to do something that we wanted to be able to do, which couldn't do, which was to get to know the use patterns of everything that we do, of our energy management, the way we consume raw material. All of this in a 4.0 environment is going to be managed, monitored, and then fed back to the design of new products and the building of new services, of course. And the challenge, everything is based upon digital knowledge, digitalization, which is one of the main things that we're going to face in these new surroundings, and the way we train our professionals. I had a series of examples. I'm not going to go into them because actually I'm a little behind schedule, but these are companies who are remotely setting up systems. Here, in this case, we're talking about remote control. You can have it with 5 buttons, 2 buttons. You can have it for left-handed people, right-handed people. You can have it, all this different setup. What technologies are going to allow us to do is get closer to the customer, and it's going to be the customer that does the setup. Then we've got healthy practices in companies. Technology is going to tell us whether we are taking the right ergonomic position, whether we're meeting our health and safety standards, whether our we'll talk about energy management, not energy management because we measure consumption, but energy management because we know the factory's plans, and we're going to be able to auction in real time the energy needs depending upon the manufacturing load that we're going to have in the coming days or weeks. This is something that we can obtain through many sensors, real-time sensors, and all the data that we can get. Examples here related to assistive maintenance. SMEs, of course, can't build their own technical maintenance platform for one machine. What we need to do is to share these knowledge, experiences, and actually make it something of value, get it onto the market in a sustainable fashion. And also in training, which is what we're most interested in. For example, gaming as an opportunity, knowing in a fun way is something that many companies are developing. Even mobile apps as things that can train us on and provide us with specific knowledge, or virtual reality, and virtual reality not just for maintenance but also for trying to find hidden information which sometimes actually isn't within our field of vision, and which technologies can bring closer to us, or to practice simulating using scarce resources. Also, virtual vision can also help us get conventional information in a far more attractive way. In this case, here, this is a simulation of a winery and its vineyards, and here you can see what's happening there, the characteristics of the wine, how the vines are growing, and in this way the customer has the feeling that they are interacting with this virtual environment. They choose what they want to do, they can inspect, they can visit, whatever they want to do, and this is a new way of companies getting onto the market. Of course, the Basque Country needs to create its own value proposition for the new 4.0 environment, but what we are seeing are growth opportunities out there. The growth opportunities offered by the 4.0 environment. What is this going to mean for all of us? Or what might it mean for all of us? Firstly, it'll strengthen traditional industry, something that we've already achieved. Secondly, this integrated supply. Of course, if we have our industries interconnected, that's going to allow us to offer individual modules to each company to provide greater added value to the market that strengthens the value chain, because we know that this is going to help us play in a Premier League. We can offer greater value for that reason. And finally, we're going to operate as an extended factory. That means that in a control panel, we could just reflect any sort of international request that we receive, channel that request through the different industries in the Basque Country, so that immediately the amount of effort that would be required and how much production would be need to meet this hypothetical new demand. And I'm going to conclude by saying that this all depends on cooperation. Of course, as a sector, we need to rely on vocational training, because we know that you are the place where people are trained to help our sector grow, and we're currently working in 2 pilot projects, and I wanted to just talk about them to finish my presentation. One is a smart grid. In this case, we're working with Tknika, where the experience of industries building components and solutions for smart grids of the future is used and converted into digital knowledge by Tknika, and this then becomes teaching material that's used to teach those who might be working in this field in the future. This is a project from our collaboration alliance where we feel that a lot needs to be done even now. And the other is in knowledge transformation. We're also collaborating in that field to try to make sure that if we say that digital knowledge is going to be key, because all remote support is going to be based on knowledge, on technological knowledge, we need analogic knowledge that we have today to be transformed into digital knowledge in as quick a period of time as possible. And that digital knowledge needs to reflect the ideas for products or processes that young people have and allow them to be able to transform into something quickly. Clear example of that is where we want to contribute in structuring alliances. We can only progress if we make more alliances, more partnerships. We feel that's vital for the development of our country in an environment, in a 4.0 environment. We need to share We need to collaborate. And that's all I wanted to say. I'd like to now thank you for this opportunity of flying together with the VET centres. We're committed to carrying on building the road ahead of us, which will mean that those students that come out of VET schools are fully aligned with the 4.0 environment that we're talking about. Thank you very much.